Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, our beautiful country, how we're going to fix both those bad boys together. And guys, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, New York is now on the chopping block because it turns out that two different representatives, very high power representatives, are going after New York for their 2A infringements, coining letters directly to the DOJ to go after Hochul herself, along with her state and all their gun control tendencies. Guys, Retribution train is leaving the station. Everything will be linked in the description box below. I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. And of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, because without you guys, we can't push the Second Amendment forward, and you guys are everything, the lifeblood. And thank you so much for defeating that YouTube censorship algorithm. All right, let's get into this, guys. We are just going to dive right in. So, if you are not familiar with what we are talking about, Attorney General Pamela Bondi's statement regarding the creation of a Second Amendment task force. Now, this task force is now being led by the Assistant Attorney General, Harmeet Dillon. Now, Harmeet Dillon has basically said on multiple occasions that the Second Amendment is under the civil rights. They're going after civil rights, which is a protected right. It's not cute, is what she's basically saying. And she's already gone after one of the counties in San Diego, I believe in California, over the infringements of the Second Amendment there. Well, now I'm just going to show you a few reps from New York who want that same love directed directly at Hochul and the New York State. All right. So if you were not familiar, here's a little more backstory, then we'll get into the goodness. Office of Attorney General, April 8. Memorandum for all department employees, the Attorney General Second Amendment Enforcement Task Force. For too long, the Second Amendment, which establishes the fundamental and individual right of Americans to keep and bear arms, has been treated as a second-class right. No more. It is policy of this Department of Justice to use its full might to protect the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. President Trump has made protecting the Second Amendment rights a priority for this administration. As he explained, the Second Amendment is an indispensable safeguard of security and liberty because it is foundational to maintain all of the rights held by Americans. President Trump has directed me to propose a plan of action designed to protect the Second Amendment rights of all Americans. As one element of a comprehensive plan of action that I am proposing to the President, I am hereby creating a Second Amendment Enforcement Task Force. The force will continue the Department's ongoing work to implement the executive order. The task force is principally charged and developed in executing strategies to use litigation and policy to advance, protect, and promote compliance in the Second Amendment. Okay, that's the backstory. Well, now, look at this. Wouldn't you know it? Hochul's going to get a little bit of this love. This is from Representative Elise Stefonic. Now, Elise Stefonic is from New York, and she's also a very high-ranking member in the Republican Party. Let the retribution begin. Today, I am bringing to AG Pam Bondi's attention New York State's continued infringement upon the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens. Let's go. This follows years of unconstitutional restrictions imposed by New York despite clear precedent from the United States Supreme Court affirming the individual right to keep and bear arms. And I'm going to run through this really quickly because this is written by two different members of Congress. Now, the other person here is Representative Claudia Tenney. The Second Amendment is not a suggestion, it's a constitutional guarantee. Today I'm calling on AG Pam Bondi to investigate New York's unconstitutional gun laws and uphold New York's 2A rights. It's the same letter, but you know what? I like Stefonic better. Let's get her read here. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. You have to understand how important this is. Okay? There's already a Second Amendment task force in place by the DOJ. Trump has already put an executive order in place requiring furthering of the Second Amendment in defense of the Second Amendment. The Assistant Attorney General has couched Second Amendment rights as civil rights under that division, and they are already doing this to California. Well, now, Republicans now want it to go to New York. I'm here for it. Let me hear you in the comments if you want this to happen to dear Hochul, Letitia James, and all those gun-controlling psychopaths. All right. To the Honorable Pam Bondi, we're tattling on New York. That's exactly what it says. Department of Justice, blah, blah, blah. Dear Attorney General Bondi, I write to you to urge the Department of Justice to investigate New York State's infringement of New York's Second Amendment rights and ensure that these rights are upheld for all citizens by taking the appropriate action to remedy these infringements. New York State has enacted and enforced a sweeping regime of laws that infringe upon the Second Amendment rights of its citizens in direct defiance of precedent set by the Supreme Court and the Constitution. This is unacceptable, and law-abiding gun owners must be protected. Open's real good. I like it. Let's continue. New York's restrictions include a categorical ban on commonly owned semi-automatic rifles, so we're going after AWBs, licensing, that's amazing, and registration of constitutionally protected arms, licensing and registration along with AWBs, and an arbitrary cap on magazine capacity and mag bans. I love this. These restrictions amount to a structural repudiation of the Second Amendment and an unconstitutional infringement of gun owners' rights. These restrictions violate the Supreme Court precedent set in D.C. Heller, McDonald, City of Chicago, and the Bruen decision, citing all the right things. As you know, in 2022, the Supreme Court delivered a major victory for law-abiding gun owners in New York State in its decision, the Bruen decision. This ruling struck down New York's Sullivan Act, which required concealed carry permit applicants to justify their desire for a concealed carry permit and required firearm regulation to be viewed in the context of the historical tradition of firearm regulation. I really like that. While this was a tremendous step in restoring rights to New York gun owners, their constitutional rights are still being unnecessarily and unconstitutionally restricted. As you know, the Department of Justice has a long history of investigating and addressing infringement of constitutional rights by the states, and we urge the department to take appropriate actions to uphold New Yorkers' Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment is not a suggestion, it is a constitutional guarantee that requires enforcement. Love that. I urge you to act swiftly to investigate New York's constitutional infringements and fight to uphold New Yorkers' Second Amendment rights. Albany lawmakers have unconstitutionally restricted the rights of New Yorkers for too long. I look forward to hearing from you and have complete faith in your ability and willingness to fight these essential rights. Stefonic and Tenney. All right. So now why do I love this so much? Let's do this really quickly because this is a very important piece to this whole puzzle. When you have a DOJ, a attorney general, and an assistant attorney general that are all grinding on the Second Amendment rights, and those states that would dare infringe on those Second Amendment rights, which they have for decades and decades and decades at this point, you have a propensity for states who are under the boot to actually get some attention and some love in the bad way, right? Stefonic is from New York. Guys, she's been in Congress a hot minute. So's Tenney. Why all of a sudden is she writing a request to the DOJ to come down on New York, Hochul, Letitia James, and their gun-controlling tendencies? It's because the landscape completely changed. She senses a political benefit, and it's something that she'll get only positives from. Go team! Set the table of positivity or negativity, let them choose what they would like, and they're going to choose the one that benefits them. In this case, it benefits Stefonic and Tenney to angle the DOJ against New York because it's only going to win against the for the constituency of New York, and there's no negative downside from saying, hey, DOJ, I know we've never said anything before, but except when we're getting elected and campaigning, but now that you're actually in charge and you have that pesky little Second Amendment task force, have you looked at New York? I just want to throw that out there. I said something about it. Hopefully you could do something. XOXO, lots of love, Stefonic. Guys, this is the kind of thing that I need to see because Harmeet Dillon, the person who's leading the Civil Rights Task Force, can take this now as, we had a complaint, New York, and we're looking into you. And it turns out, yep, y'all goofed. So now we're going to look into your butts as well. That's how this system works. And it's only possible because you guys are putting pressure on the people who are doing this. I'm just saying, you guys are making work happen. Everything will be linked in the description box below. Make sure you tune in the rest of the night and look out because that vote for the Hearing Protection Act with suppressors being removed from the NFA and the Short Act, that vote is happening tonight at Budget. It's scheduled for 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I will let you guys know as soon as I can. If it's too late, first thing in the morning. But enough of that. I will see you guys on the next one. I'm Braden. Later.